Hey guys, Chris here from Carolette Farm. Today I'm out in the garden and it's time to start clearing all of these dead plants and kind of putting the garden to rest for the winter. So I've got a lot ahead of me today, but I can't wait to show you what I'm up to. If you've watched some of our earlier summer videos, you know I love to line my garden pathways with cardboard. But at the end of the season, the cardboard has really begun to break down and it's time now to gather it up into a big pile and then we'll burn it. After that, it's nice to till into the soil and it just adds a little more nutrients. So first step in clearing the garden is getting all of the old cardboard up. As I work to clear the cardboard here between my tall okra rows, I am finding a few pieces of lumber that I didn't find when I removed the larger pieces the other day. So again, getting down here, kind of, up close and personal to everything, it's just helping me to uncover things that perhaps I had not previously seen. Here is a look at what a great job the cardboard has done, acting as that weed barrier between the okra rows. The cardboard I probably put down back in July, and hardly anything has grown. A big reason I am wanting to get out into the garden today. One, it's sunny, it's relatively warm. I think it's maybe going to be high in like the upper 50s to low 60s, so pretty comfortable for moving around and doing, a fair amount of work. But this past weekend was absolutely beautiful. It was like up in the 70s, and today is the first of this cold spell that's really going to hit us, and it's the first big cold snap, and it could be the real turn for the season. And because of that, I want to take advantage of today's loveliness and try to get as much work done, pulling up plants and really breaking down the garden, because once the frost really starts to set in and the ground becomes frozen, it's a lot harder to clear your plants. So I think today is our last chance to really do a lot of this great work. And so we're going to bust out as much of it as we possibly can. Knowing that this cold weather is coming our way, I went ahead yesterday and I covered our cabbage as well as the broccoli and cauliflower because they're still growing, the plants are still maturing. We have 2 small broccoli heads that I'm probably going to pick today. And then the cabbage is looking great. The cauliflower, the verdict is still out. I don't know if we will or won't get any cauliflower, but a few small heads of broccoli and several cabbage heads, not a bad late fall crop. Being as I'm not sure if the groundhog will come back this part of the late fall, I have left the netting over the plants and just covered them with our frost blanket here. I have clipped it on. It's not the tightest covering you can see, but again, I don't think the frost is going to be too harsh as of yet. If it were the heart of winter, I would make sure that we didn't have any, cold air sneaking underneath the blanket, but I think this will be fine for now. Again, it's November. It's not going to be super cold, but I think we're looking at a low of maybe 27 overnight. So I definitely am glad to have my blankets covering my last few crops. Another plus to having the netting still covering my plants is that it will keep the cats from kind of going in and going to the bathroom and digging around the plants. They love to go underneath the cloths because it's warm. I can't blame them. But sometimes they do wreak a little havoc on the plants, so I'm not so sad that I still have them covered with the netting. I was telling you, the cats really do love the garden. They really do love the garden. Shrimp likes to lay. He's got a little grassy area not far from where I am that he likes to curl up and lay in the sun. They love to play around the plants. All 3 of my cats are currently in the garden. So, my frost blankets, they don't last but a few seasons because of the cats by and large. They jump on them, they go under them, they try to come out of them. So if I get a few seasons, I'm doing pretty good. Here is a prime example of a cat on top of the frost blanket. Shrimp here is sitting on top of the frost blanket that is on top of the netting that is covering my cabbage bed. So the cats are really hard on everything in the garden. That was thing 1, thing 2, and thing 3. They're always up to something. Another area we've been working hard as of late is this little quadrant here. This is where our sweet potatoes sat. I dug them last week. It took me, I think, 4 different sessions, but we got tons and tons of sweet potatoes. We had a big family gathering yesterday, so we gave a bunch of them away. We've got more plans to share others with some other friends and such. So a great crop was for sure had here, but now it's time to, again, start putting the soil to rest. I'm tearing up the cardboard that was here. Some of this was really beginning to deteriorate. So rather than burn it, I've just torn it up. And I'm going to actually start spreading manure on top of this area. And then over winter, all of the nutrients can settle down into the soil. And then come spring, we'll just go ahead and start tilling it all in. The pumpkins, I've done the exact same thing too. This is where they were in this upper corner of the garden. Now that the pumpkins have all been pulled, we have now started spreading manure in this area. The pumpkin and the sweet potato portions of the garden, they had the least amount of nutrients in their soil, and so we want to give them as much kind of organic material as possible. It can break down here all winter long, and come spring we'll probably be putting more manure and compost down, but this is a start. I'm also harvesting the last few okra pods that we have drying on the plants here. After I harvest these, it'll then be time to officially pull the plants. We first started to pull the okra plants, but we found that some of the larger plants were really very well established deep down into the ground with those roots, and so we did have to get the shovel out and actually dig them up. But once we got the okra removed, we turned our attention to the pepper plants. Now, we had a big storm come through back in the summer, and my pepper plants took a real beating, and we ended up having to tie them all up to stakes. So we had to untie the plants, work to remove the stakes, and then after we pulled up our plants, we had a lot of produce that had just kind of fallen to the ground throughout the fall. And I did want to come through with my bucket and pick up as much of that as I could just to remove it and carry it off to the compost. We also tried to initially burn our tomato vines and our pepper plants along with some cardboard, but we found everything was just a little too wet, so the fire did not take. So we turned our attention back to pulling more crops. The green beans here were by far the easiest crop to pull up. So that was a nice way to kind of finish up our tending and clearing in the garden today. I just pulled my sweet basil plant, and even though this has been dead for over a month, it still smells really good. But it was gone for the season, so into the burn pile it goes, and eventually we will get around to burning those things. We have made excellent progress here in the garden today. We've got 1 or 2 big piles of cardboard. We've pulled up all of our peppers and tomatoes. These giant stalks behind me, these were the okra plants that were super tall. We actually had to use the shovel to kind of dig them up. They were more than we could just pull. The green beans, I pulled the green beans up. So everything is looking really good. We tried to start burning some of our debris, but it's just too wet right now. We've had some showers the last couple of days, and clearly things will need to dry out a bit more, but an excellent start to clearing the garden. I'm so glad that we were able to really capitalize on a lovely day such as today for gardening. Some years when we haven't done this, the ground just gets so frozen that we can't pull the plants even when it gets to be a warmer day. So I'm so glad we were able to do all of that work today. We still have a little more cardboard to clear up here and there and those burn piles to tend to, but aside from that, it's just taking the tomato cages and the stakes to the barn, and then we really are finished for the winter. Thank you so much for joining me here in the garden today. We got so much accomplished. In some ways, it still feels like a bit of a mess, but a winter garden is not usually quite as beautiful as, say, a spring or summertime garden, and that's okay. But what we set out to do, we did. We pulled our dead plants. We pulled up all of those old cardboard paths. We've got some burn piles that we'll have to get to after they dry out a bit more. But all in all, an excellent day here in the garden. Again, thanks for joining us. Check back soon because we will give updates on our winter crops. And we hope to see you in the future. Bye, guys.